morning and God bless you. We'll wait for a few more people to jump on the broadcast, and then we're going to get right into it. Let's hope for more people, because this is going to be a very interesting SmackDown. At least I think it will be. Subject near and dear to my heart, social media ministry. Good morning, whoever just popped on. I'm driving, so if I don't acknowledge you by name, it's not that I'm ignoring you or whatever. It's more like I'm driving. Hey there, Andrea. I think I just saw your name on there. Good morning. God bless you. All right, let's get into it. Social media ministries are causing a panic. Shout out to my brother from another mother, Jonas Clark. He's got some good preaching and teaching, though the funny thing is you can't read an article from him without him trying to sell you something, but that's a whole other issue. I mean, I got books for sale, but I'm not pushy about it, and I don't there isn't a buy this or buy everything link on every article I write. Maybe there should be. Maybe I'd have a nicer house if I did. But anyhow, he wrote this article. The title of the article was something like, "Are you being mentored by a Jezebel?" You would think the only people operating in the spirit of Jezebel are people on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these other social media outlets that because apparently what he's trying to suggest is they can't have a real ministry. And so he asked a series of 30 questions that are supposed to, I guess, invalidate anybody who's in social media. Are they approved by your local pastor? Goodness, my former pastor would never approve of my ministry, because he was jealous and insecure. When he found out my tapes were outselling his, he had the deacon erase all the master copies, so I never got any myself. So that brother sure wouldn't approve of my ministry. My ministry is a social media ministry. So I take a little bit of issue. I'm not offended. I do take some issue with it, because you can go ahead and try to say, well, we're not valid or we're somehow illegitimate, but your website don't have too many testimonies of people getting healed of cancer or healed of Asperger's syndrome. Yeah, you call yourself Apostle Jonas. Where are the signs of an apostle? Got any special miracles going on, Jonas? I'm saying that to say this, because you're trying to invalidate someone else's ministry. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people who operate like a Jezebel that are on Facebook, that are on Twitter. There are. I've run into a bunch of them. But what I found is the ones who really are, for the most part, are approved by a local church. They are involved with ministries. They are connected to other ministries. There's a Facebook group that's got about 12 or 15,000 people. It's a prophecy-oriented group. All kinds of nonsense goes on in there. They had a transsexual in there prophesying to people, psychics, mediums, soothsayers, fortune tellers. Dude, the moderator does nothing about it. The admin doesn't do anything about it. Some man in there telling women they gotta have sex with him to conceive their anointing. That apparently he didn't take issue with either. But he's connected to a reputable ministry. He was trained by Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, so I guess he's not a Jezebel, right? Right, Apostle Jonas? I guess he would be okay, because he's approved by a local church. He's a member of a local church, therefore it must be kosher. You see what I'm getting at? You see how incredibly stupid that line of reasoning is? Just because somebody is approved by a local ministry or they're a member of a local church, and there's another issue. You Apostle Jonas Clark, you seem to be suggesting that for a ministry to be legitimate, they must be a member of a local church, or they must be approved by a reputable ministry, or which means somebody established, somebody within a denomination, somebody who's got connections. And you seem to be suggesting that this is what makes a ministry valid. And I have to say this, by your line of reasoning, the ministry of Isaiah was illegitimate. By your line of reasoning, the ministry of Amos was illegitimate. Amos himself said, "I was not a prophet nor the son of a prophet." John the Baptist was illegitimate. He must have been a Jezebel. And my goodness, Jesus wasn't even a member of the priesthood. He was of the tribe of Judah. So he couldn't, even if he wanted to be part of the religious order of his day, he couldn't. So the ministry of Jesus sure was not approved by the local church, if you want to call it that. So this line of reasoning that this, that this is somehow a red flag, that this must be that anybody who's not approved by a local church or not a member of a local church, or that they give directive prophecy. What, you only prophesy vague things that don't matter? What are we supposed to prophesy about? Are we supposed to give prophecy that doesn't give any direction? What's the point of that? What do I do? Prophesy to you what you had for lunch yesterday? Is that going to help you walk closer to God? Is that going to help you walk in the destiny that God has for you? And don't get me wrong, there are some people who they do directive prophecy, but they're really just trying to manipulate you. It's not real prophecy. The thing to ask about their prophecies is, does their word come to pass? Does their word have the witness of the Holy Spirit? Does their teaching line up with Scripture? Oddly enough, those questions didn't make it into your list. And so I kind of take issue with that. Partially because, I have a social media ministry. I do most of my discipleship through Facebook and Twitter and Periscope, as well as by phone, because most of the people I minister to do not live near me. Another question he raises is, who are they accountable to? Do they have a long distance accountability? As if someone has to live next door to you or live in your town to hold you accountable. Let's examine that line of reasoning. I know people that they're members of a church. I knew of a guy two guys in Trenton, New Jersey, who were pastors of some of the biggest churches in Trenton. So they were sure approved of by the religious establishment of their city. They had local accountability. They had a whole deacon board and all that. Their accountability people were not long distance. One was called Friendship Baptist Church. The pastor got caught in his office sodomizing another man. They got stuck together. They had to throw a sheet on them and take them to the hospital so they could separate them, because they had stuck together like a couple of dogs. Apostle Jonas Clark, please tell me, do they not fit the do you see what I mean? Apostle Jonas Clark? Heck, the pastor of about 20 years ago or so, a man by the name of Ralph Rutledge, pastor of the biggest church in Canada, approved of completely by the largest Pentecostal denomination in Canada, the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada. That's basically the same organization as Assemblies of God. Biggest church in Canada. 5,000 people showing up to hear him preach on Sunday. Not only was he into homosexuality, he was raping young men. And apparently even raping them in his office in the church. He had local accountability. Goodness, that's like when I was a stockbroker and potential clients would ask me for references. I said, well, I could give you references, but you really think I'd give you a reference that's going to say something bad about me? I'll just give you references there to say I'm awesome, that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, that I'm like the next coming of Jesus or something. The fact that someone has local accountability doesn't necessarily mean that they are a safe leader to work with. That they have no accountability can be a red flag. But my goodness, in my own case, what local accountability can I have in here? I live in Miramichi, New Brunswick, Canada. I walk into the church, nobody will even shake my hand, never mind be accountability for me. No one's going to cover my ministry here. They won't even talk to me. I make eye contact with another man in one of these churches. They give me a dirty look like I'm there to kidnap their daughters and have my way with them. That's how they look at you. Because they don't like people of color around here, for the most part. Oddly enough, the completely dead Lutheran church, they're kind of friendly. But any church here that claims to have the Holy Ghost and move in the gifts of the Spirit and believes in prophecy and all things Pentecostal, you're not getting a handshake if you ain't white. they're not even going to speak to you at all. So tell me, Apostle Jonas Clark, how do I get some local accountability with that? Should I go to them for local accountability? I might have to dye my hair blonde and put on some blue contacts and pretend I'm a white dude. Probably won't pass because I don't have the facial features for it. So do you see what I'm getting at? That someone's accountability is local doesn't really mean a whole lot. Goodness, I've had people somebody from the freaking, I think she was from Thailand or something. The young prophetess held me accountable on something. Because I was ministering too much and I was working too hard and I really needed to rest. And she came to me. She approached me on Facebook with a word from God about how I needed to rest and that I was doing too much. Other side of the planet, but she held me accountable. Someone who lives in Florida, another prophetess, lives about 1,500 miles from me, brought me a word from the Lord that I needed to start fasting again. She says she felt kind of awkward doing it because she didn't really feel like she was in a place to tell me what to do. And I said, do your job, prophetess. And so you see what I'm saying is that just because somebody's ministering in social media and only in social media doesn't mean that they're not accountable. And the fact that they have accountability, people who hold them accountable, who don't live next door to them, who may live far away, that doesn't mean distance means nothing to God. And the truth is, Apostle Jonas Clark, is that social media ministries are causing a panic in the world of conventional and institutionalized ministry. We're taking too much business from you. That's the issue. Because people aren't coming to you to pay for a prophecy anymore because they can go to Facebook and get a prophecy from 18 different people for free. Especially with the economy being the way it is, ministries like, let's say, Benny Hinn Ministries that used to take in $100 million a year, I'd be surprised if they're taking in $50 million a year now. And so things are kind of tight. And the big name preacher has to live on $50 million a year instead of $100 million a year now. And because of that, they don't want to lose any more business. They're losing people to these discipleship groups on Facebook and elsewhere. That's the real issue. That's the real elephant in the room that you don't want to address, Jonas Clark. Don't tell me otherwise. I know it is. Because if you were really that concerned about people possibly being mentored by a Jezebel spirit, you would address the ones called Bill Johnson and T.D. Jakes and George Smyer and Creflo. But you won't address them because you want to preach in their churches or churches like theirs. You'd address the Ralph Rutledges of the world. You'd address the Eddie Longs. You would address the preachers with the baby mama drama. Can they be a good mentor for somebody? Yeah. And Jonas Clark is trying to say that this, that's what he's suggesting. He doesn't outright say it, but he's trying to imply it. And he wants you to take a real hard look at the social media ministries. And if they don't got local accountability, if they're not part of a local church, then somehow they must be a Jezebel. That's not what a Jezebel is. Because say what you want about me, Jonas Clark, I'm mentoring a lot more people than you are. All you're doing is preaching and selling people stuff. How many phone calls do you take a day? How many people are you personally mentoring? How many people are you personally praying for? How many people can actually call you on your cell phone when they got a problem, when they've got demons in their house, when they got a family member who's got cancer, when they've got something going on? How many of them can actually reach you? I'm guessing somewhere between few and none. And that's the truth for most of you, and most of you people in ministry who have a valid ministry, if you want to call it that. You got a big preaching schedule, and you don't got time for the little guy. You don't got time for anybody unless they're going to pay you and pay you good. That's just the honest to God truth. Part of the reason why people are gravitating toward these social media ministries and these internet ministries is because their pastor doesn't have time for them. Because even when they pay tithes and give offerings and do building funds and pastoral Sunday and and all this other stuff that the church has, all these other ways that the church has to get money out of them. They need some pastoral counseling. The pastor wants $70 an hour, $100 an hour. TD Jakes, it's $2,000 for a 5-minute meeting. Who can afford that? I sure could. Maybe you can, Jonas. Well, sure you can. But this is why they're gravitating toward these things. Are there some people with Jezebel spirits capitalizing it? Oh, yeah, for sure. But shame on you. Because the truth is, the whole reason why social media ministries are taking off is because pastors aren't available, because pastors don't give a rat's butt about the congregations. Some of them kind of care, but they don't care enough to make that kind of time for you, because real discipleship is costly. It's like my wife has said to me on more than one occasion. She says, you give your life to this. Because you have to. You can't really disciple people without being available to them. You can't disciple people without making commitment to them. You know, Jesus didn't just preach to his disciples, he loved them. You have one disciple who used to, cuddle up on him, I guess because John was a kid. They ate with him, they slept with him, they traveled with him, they lived with him. Discipleship is a lifestyle, not an event that happens on a Friday night. This is why people are gravitating towards social media ministries, because a lot of us who minister social media and email and the internet, we actually have time for people. We actually make time for people, even though it's costly, even though it isn't easy, even though we could be doing other things. And a lot of us do it without a whole lot of support or very little support. A lot of us work a lot harder than you do, Jonas Clark. A lot of us put in way more hours than you do, and we get paid a lot less. If I had to do the math of the money that comes into the ministry and divide it by the number of hours I actually put into this, I probably make about $3 an hour. $3 an hour. But people like you will try to tell people don't follow someone like me because we got some kind of bad motive. Yeah, the whole $3 an hour I'm making. I've actually had people call me a pimp. Yeah, pimp. I live in a $20,000 house. But my goodness. And guess what, Jonas Clark? It's going to get worse. We're going to take more people from you. And eventually, at some point, the thousands and thousands of people we minister to may actually start supporting our ministries for real. And you're going to lose even more business. And that's what you look at. You look at it as business. Apostle Jonas Clark, you and the rest of people like you. And you got some good teaching on a lot of subjects. I'm not going to knock you for that. But shame on you. But I'm coming for you. And hell's coming with me. Sorry, I had to take a line from Tombstone. But there's a reckoning coming. And a lot of us who are strictly social media ministers and internet ministers and Facebook prophets, we're coming for you. We're coming after your people. Not to steal them from you, but to rescue them from you. There's a reckoning coming. You're going to lose more people. You're going to lose business. You're going to lose followers. Because you don't have time for them. Because you don't make time for them. Because the truth is you don't love them. You don't. And sooner or later, the saints are going to wake up to this reality that many of the leaders in this institutionalized, because this is another thing you're suggesting, that only the institutionalized church is valid. That's the only valid form of ministry. And that's the case, and Jesus wasn't valid. But people are going to come to the realization that the vast majority of the institutionalized church is not capable of meeting their spiritual needs. isn't capable of discipling. This is why so many people out there have been sitting in the church 10, 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years, still aren't walking in what God called them to. My mother, wicked as she is, does have a call on her life. She's saved. She was a little girl. She's 63 years old. I bet she still doesn't know the specific call on her life. Uh-oh. Looks like we're overheating. We'll be back in just a bit. Phone is turning off. We'll be back. And yeah, it's saying high temperature detected. Let me turn the heat off of my car maybe. But looks like it's trying to turn my phone off. But this is the truth, folks. This is what's going on in the church. That we got this dynamic in the church. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was useful. I hope it was inspirational. If it was, share it on Facebook and whatever other social media you got. We're coming for you. We're coming to rescue the people of God out of the hand of wicked leadership. Visit us over at riftchurch.org. Brother Sam signing out. God bless you and God keep you. And now it's actually, well, I guess I'm not signing out. It stopped overheating. I really, at some point, once I got the cash to do so, I gotta buy some kind of tablet. I mean, I could buy a cheap one, but I don't like things that are cheap because they're usually low quality. I've learned that lesson too many times the hard way. That if you're being cheap on something, you usually ends up costing you more. But this is the truth. Okay, I'm not signing out because apparently we're stopped overheating. And I'll remove it from the holder and put it over here where it's exposed to some cool air. Man, that car's making noise. But here's the thing, folks. There is a day of reckoning coming. Guys like you, Mr. Apostle Jonas Clark, there's a day of reckoning coming. The people of God are getting sick and tired. This is why they're spending so much time on Facebook looking for a prophetic word. Now, some of them do it. They're just addicted to prophecy and the prophecy chasing. But there's a reason why they're in that position in the first place. Because the pseudo discipleship they're getting in church isn't enough. It's not giving them direction. They don't really have a hope for a future. They don't know the plan of God for their life. Like I said, my mama probably don't know what her calling is. She's got a vague idea. Will probably never really walk in what God called it to. And I know many people like that. They've been saved. She's been saved more than 50 years. And she's gone to some mega churches. She's been to David DeMola's church. She's been on some of the big churches down there when she lived in Florida. Now she's part of a big church run by some foreigner in Peru. Because the foreigners like to come down there and make their money. They got all kinds of people not really walking in what God called them to. Been saved 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And you want to look sideways at social media ministries when we're actually giving people directional prophecy that's giving them direction? I get messages all the time from people who listen to our broadcasts who have been ministered to by us in social media, talking about how they've grown since they've known us and how much it's changed their life. And how it's awakened them to the truth of the word and how much error that they were walking in that they weren't aware of. Because they'd spent 10, 15, 20, 30 years in the institutionalized church, and somehow the church in 30 years couldn't make the time to teach them the difference between the holy and the profane. But Apostle Jonas, please explain to me again how it is that the social media ministries are the problem. Where some of us in a year and a half to 2 years have helped people grow more than they did in their previous 40 years of being saved with people like you. How does one get saved from their sins? That is a good question. Well, first you got to recognize that you are a sinner. You got to recognize that you have sinned against God, that the law of God is supreme, that God is holy and righteous, that He is deserving of your worship because He did create everything. Because God, you have to recognize that God is